everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today we are going to march down from the City Hall to Colorado Boulevard. I'd like to first now invite Father Jared O'Brien of the Assumption Blessed Virgin Mary Catholic Church in Pasadena to say a few words to us.
I stand here as a voice for the voiceless, and especially all those suffering in Chinese prisons as we stand here today, especially members of the underground Catholic Church, the bishops, priests and lay people, but all Christians and all faiths throughout the world, especially in Darfur, the women of Darfur, the Tibetans and our friends in Burma and the Burmese monks who stood up for democracy, and many were suffered and killed on the streets. So I ask all of us to support this great cause, but especially all the voiceless. God bless you. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Bill Paparian, former mayor of Pasadena.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm wearing today the shawl that was presented to me by the Dalai Lama, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, in July of 1996, when, as mayor of Pasadena, I welcomed His Holiness to this city hall. He arrived at this very sidewalk, and I escorted him up these stairs behind us into the council chambers, where we had a reception honoring him. That reception was something that we held despite the pressure that was placed upon me as the mayor of Pasadena by the Chinese government. I was contacted by the State Department, and the Chinese government, through their local consulate, urged me to cancel the reception, claiming that it would have the most adverse impact upon the relations between our two countries. And it was interesting to me to observe that just a few weeks ago, when President Bush presented the Congressional Gold Medal to His Holiness, the same types of arguments were trying to be replayed then. We had heard then, they were trying to replay them again now. This shawl I wear today in solidarity with the brave people of Tibet who have withstood the brutal occupation of their country by the Chinese government, and to remind the citizens of Pasadena that there was a time when this city stood for a principled position when it came to issues such as the occupation of Tibet and what the Chinese government has been doing. I know that many of you are angry and upset with what happened this past Monday at the City Council meeting. It was a shameful display of political cowardice, and it showed the unwitting collaboration of some members of the council and the current mayor with regard to what the Chinese government is continuing to attempt to do. You know, a few years ago, we established a sister city relationship with a city in China. And I was hopeful then, as I was supportive of our establishing that sister city relationship, that it would be an opportunity for a rebirth of freedom in China, that it would see a loosening of the restraints that have occurred in the past. And unfortunately, that's not the case. That's not what's happened in the years since. I know that many of you are going to continue what we're seeing here today, and it will grow until January 1st. But I want to urge you to continue to act as you have already, in a very dignified way, in a very principled way. There have been comparisons to the Beijing Olympics with what happened in 1936 in Berlin. And I'd like to invite your attention to the statues that are behind us of the two most famous sons of Pasadena, the Robinson brothers, Jackie and Mac Robinson. Jackie Robinson, as you all know, broke the color barrier in professional baseball, but what many of you don't know is that his brother Mac was equally as famous because he participated in the 1936 Olympics, and he was a silver medal winner in the 200-yard dash. And they set an example of standing up to oppression, to standing up to civil rights violations and human rights violations, and they did it in a way that was dignified and brought credit to them and brought credit to this city. And so I say to you, as you go forward today in this march, and as I know there will be other marches and other events culminating on January 1st, in a protest which I believe, in all sincerity, will eclipse any public relations value that the Chinese government ever hoped to gain from this float on Colorado Boulevard. The eyes of the world will be upon you that are gathered here today to carry the voice and to hold the torch high for freedom and justice for the people that live in occupied Tibet and for the people that live throughout China. And so I urge you to continue to act in a dignified way and to allow that float to go down Colorado Boulevard as you exercise your First Amendment rights. Don't disrupt the parade. The parade means a lot to the citizens of this city, and Pasadena will respect you much more, and the people of the world will have much greater respect for you if you exercise your voice of dissent and protest in a way that's consistent with the reputation that was set by the Robinson brothers. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you very much, Bill. And I'd like to invite the Burmese representative to come and speak.
Hi, good day everyone. And we are here today to join forces with our brothers and sisters fighting for justice and peace and against China's participation in Rose Parade in Pasadena on January 1st, 2008. And as Burmese, we have suffered greatly under the world's most brutal dictatorship. And the recent killings in Burma, as everybody knows, would not have been possible without the support, the military support of Chinese government. And we are going to continue to fight until justice prevails, until China stops supporting the most ruthless regime in Burma. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. I'd like to invite Chris Wu from the China Future Forum to
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, today we come here, we urge the Pasadena city stop the baking flow in the next year, the flow on the Pasadena city.
Yeah, hello, gentlemen. I come from Taiwan. I'm a Taiwanese American, and I want to share a story with you about the China Rose float. You know, their theme is for the Olympic, but actually I think this the Pasadena city will be using as their political propaganda, because maybe you don't know, but there is a country called Taiwan. He is a member of the International Olympic Committee, but the China baking organization for the Olympic Committee, they just want to adopt the Taiwan Olympic Committee using the name as China Taiwan, and Taiwan's athletic delegation as China Taiwan too. So the Taiwanese Olympic cannot accept this scheme. So I'd like to ask the city of Pasadena and the tournament of Rose and the people support this flow. Do you truly believe that the China government really comprise the Olympic spirit? I think that is for peace, friendship, and parity. From this accident, you can see they enforce their operation even beyond their border, reach to Taiwan. Besides this, they position 900 missiles aiming at Taiwan every day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Linda. Next, I'd like to introduce David Cutter from Northwest Pasadena.
Hi, Thank you very much for having me, and I just want to say thank you all for coming. I'm just representing the Northwest Pasadena community. We're here in solidarity against the float in the Rose Bowl Parade. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Next, I'd like to introduce Seaton from the LA Friends of Tibet.
Thank you for coming, and I want to give a little background as to why we are here today. Back in July of this year, we had heard that the Rose Float Association was going to include a Beijing float. And what we were really hoping to do, first of all, we were all very surprised and aghast that such a thing was going to happen. But once we heard that there really was not much option in terms of actually the float being withdrawn, what we wanted to do was show not just the pretty face of China, which is what, you know, the government of China, the current regime that's in power is trying to do. They have no basis for their power right now because it's no longer a communist country in the sense and in the excuse with which they came into power. Now it is just an empty shell where human rights are routinely oppressed, especially for many of the minorities. As many of you know, Tibetans have lived under Communist China's rule for 48 years. And in that time, things have gotten worse and worse. Those who are supporting that float and sponsoring the float, I feel, especially Avery Dennison, should be ashamed of themselves for helping to glorify a government that is presently the best friend of dictators everywhere. In Darfur, in Burma, you name it. If there's a dictator, China is its best friend. So Avery Dennison should really be ashamed of themselves as a corporation, given that they have a very lofty sounding mission, which if you read, I can't see how they happen to be able to reconcile the two. So thank you very much, and let me turn it over to Anne now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susan. I'd like to recognize Ron Taylor of the District 6.
Thank you, Anne. I just want to express my support for the cause for which we're here and direct everyone to that website. It's www.district6cityofpasadena.com. On that website, we have a blog, and you will also see video documentation of some of the human rights abuses and challenges that are occurring in China. I really would like to again thank Anne Lau for her outstanding job in organizing all of the events, so many of the events around this. And I really encourage everyone to remember what the Pasadena Human Relations Committee came out and said. They voted 5-0 that a strong statement be sent specifically and directly mentioning China. However, the city council decided not to follow that, and they went 6-2 against that recommendation. We need to think hard and long about that. Recognize the two city council members, Chris Holden and Jackie Robinson, who did vote to single out China, and salute them for their courage and their integrity and not worrying about political expediency. So again, I remind everyone of that, and I'd like to pass it back to Anne.
Thank you, Ron. I have here a letter from a support from the Council of the City of New York, and it is signed Simcha Fevder, Council Member of the 44th District from the City of New York. It says, "Dear friends, I write to express my support of the movement in opposition to the Beijing Olympics Rose Float for the Pasadena Rose Parade 2008. The 2008 Beijing Olympics mark a critical opportunity for the world to refocus on the human rights track record of the government of China, both domestically and diplomatically. Often we may feel too isolated to make a meaningful impact on global issues of human rights and suffering. The movement in Pasadena is evidence that this does not have to be the case. China believes that it can shine in the 2008 Olympic spotlight without being held accountable to its own one world, one dream message. The human rights community refuses to allow China to escape accountability. In Pasadena, activists have stood up and refused to allow China's Olympic tie to be paraded down their street unchecked. It is with a similar mindset that I introduced Resolution 954 in the New York City Council. Resolution 954 calls on corporate sponsors of the 2008 Beijing Summer Olympics with headquarters and operations in New York to approach the Chinese government about addressing the ongoing military and humanitarian crisis in Darfur by leveraging its strong diplomatic and financial ties with Sudan to end the crisis in Darfur, and to withdraw from supporting the Olympics if the Chinese government fails to proactively address the crisis in Darfur. The humanitarian crisis in Darfur is extreme, but it is not unstoppable. China has the diplomatic and financial relationship with Sudan to intervene effectively. Given its own record of human rights abuses, China is generally not in the practice of such intervention. The 2008 Olympics are an opportunity to reverse these practices by embarrassing China for its record at home and diplomatically. Equally embarrassed should be American corporations that stand to gain financially from the Olympics. General Electric, for example, stands to make an estimated $1.7 billion from its various contracts for the Beijing Games. It is our responsibility at home to do what we can locally to hold accountable corporations like General Electric and municipalities like Pasadena for the implications of association with an Olympic Games held by a government that expects the world to look away from its wrongdoings. I wish the best of success to the activists in Pasadena, and I hope that the initiative serves as inspiration to others throughout America to take similar action in doing our part to ensure that the Olympics really are about one world, one dream. Sincerely, Simcha Felder, Council Member, 44th District.
I represent a group called the Pasadena Altadena Black Coalition. And one of the reasons why I'm here is to lend our support from the African American community, because we have human rights issues in Pasadena based upon the way the discrimination goes against African Americans in Northwest Pasadena. So that's one of the reasons why we're here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jim. This concludes our speeches, and we'd like to start our march.
Hello?
Cross parade! Support Tibetan human rights!
Support Tibetan human rights!
Father Darren? Would you like to talk to me?
China, what a shame! China, what a shame! China, what a shame!
No human Tibet now! Save Tibet now! Save Tibet now! Human rights in Tibet! Human rights is not a game! 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 Free Tibet now! Free Tibet now! Free Tibet now! Free Tibet now!
Stop the killing in Burma! No human rights, no Beijing clothes! 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 Shame, shame, China, shame!
Shame, shame, China, shame!
Human rights is not a game!
Human rights is not a game!
Shame, shame, China, shame!
Shame, shame, China, shame!
Human rights is not a game!
Human rights is not a game!
No human rights, no Beijing clothes!
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 It's about simplicity and voluntary family planning.
No Beijing clothes in Pasadena! No human rights, no Beijing clothes!
No human rights, no Beijing clothes! No Beijing clothes!
No human rights, no Beijing clothes!
No human rights, no Beijing clothes!
No human rights, no Beijing clothes!
Shame, shame, China, shame!
Shame, shame, China, shame!
Human rights is not a game!
Human rights is not a game!
Shame, shame, China, shame!
Shame, shame, China, shame!
Human rights is not a game!
Human rights is not a game!
Stop the killings in Falun Gong!
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 Stop the killings in Burma!
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 Stop the killings in Tibet!
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 Free Tibet!
Free Tibet!
Free Tibet!
Free Tibet!
Free Burma!
Free Burma!
Free Burma!
Free Burma!
Shame, shame, China, shame!
Shame, shame, China, shame!
Human rights is not a game!
Human rights is not a game! Stop the killings in Falun Gong!
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 No human rights, no Beijing clothes!
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 Shame, shame, China, shame!
Shame, shame, China, shame!
Human rights is not a game!
Human rights is not a game!
Shame, shame, China, shame!
Shame, shame, China, shame!
Human rights is not a game!
Human rights is not a game!
No human rights, no Beijing clothes!
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 Stop the killings in Tibet!
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 Stop the killings in Burma!
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 Stop the killings in Falun Gong!
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 No human rights, no Beijing clothes!
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 Shame, shame, China, shame!
Shame, shame, China, shame!
Shame, shame, China, shame!
Shame, shame, China, shame!
Human rights for Tibet!
Human rights for Tibet!
Human rights for Burma!
Human rights for Burma!
Human rights for Darfur!
Human rights for Darfur!
Human rights for the world!
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 Free Tibet!
Free Tibet!
Free Tibet!
Free Tibet!
Free Burma!
Free Burma!
Free Burma!
Free Burma!
Stop the killings in Tibet!
Stop the killings in Tibet!
Stop the killings in Falun Gong!
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining this parade today, and we make our voice being heard in the whole city of Pasadena and all over the world through the media. Tomorrow, many of us will go to the city council to present our opinion regarding the Beijing flow. We'll tell them no human rights, no Beijing flow.
Yay!
Okay.
Anne is going up right now to present this letter to one of the officers that's guarding the Tournament of Roses officers.
Yes, now Anna is presenting the letter to the officer in the Tournament of Roses here, and let them to deliver the letter to the Tournament of Roses. Oh, I don't know why the officers are leaving. Pasadena need courage. We need courage. We need the courage to say no to China, to say no to Chinese float.
That's good. That's good. So he's going to get a message.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yes, we are trying to get him to.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. That's good.
Send China Day. Send China Day. No human rights, no Olympic Games.
Good job, man.
I'd like to thank everybody for joining this. This is one individual. Each one of you can do. This is not just individuals. It is individuals like you that can make it happen. So believe in it. One person can make a difference. And it starts with each one of us and each one of you. You make the difference. You, every one of you, make the difference. And you don't forget that. This is what we are here for, what we have come together for. We want to change China. We want China to recognize that they must keep the Olympic promise. We are here to help China to keep the Olympic